Islam. Love to you all. Praise Allah, Father Universe. High honors to Divine Prophet. Praise be to Allah. Allah, Father Universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day. Our Holy Prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Praise be to Allah. Today, we're reading from the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science of America, divinely prepared by no prophet Drew Ali, by God and his father, God Allah, great God of the universe. True D-Man from his sinful and fallen stage of man back to highest plane life with his father God, Allah. And the chapter that we're going to be reading from today is chapter 1. And at the beginning of the book, of the pamphlet, the prophet has, know thyself and thy father God Allah. The genealogy of Jesus. He has a picture of himself, Prophet Nur Ali. Then he also has on the other side Sultan Abdul Aziz ibn Saud, descendant of Hagar, who at that time was the head of the holy city of Mecca. Praise be to Allah. And as I said, today we'll be reading chapter 1. And I'll also be giving my understanding on this chapter. And as I said, it's my understanding. I'm not saying it's the authority. I'm not saying it can't be questioned. I'm just going to read the chapter, the creation of fallen man, and I'm going to give my understanding on it. And I hope that it could be a benefit to you on your journey of uplifting yourself. Chapter 1, the creation and fall of man. Time never was when man was not. If life of man at any time began, the time will come when it will end. The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. No finite mind can comprehend things infinite. All finite things are subject unto change. All finite things will cease to be because there was a time when they were not. The bodies and the souls of men are finite things, and they will change. Yea, from a finite point of view, the time will come when they will be no more. But man himself is not the body, nor the soul. He's a spirit and a part of Allah. Creative faith gave to man, to spirit man, a soul that he might function on the plane of soul. Gave him a body of flesh that he might function on the plane of things made manifest. Why did creative faith give to spirit man a soul that he might function on the plane of soul? Why did creative faith give to soul body of flesh that he might function on the plane of things that are made manifest? Here, now, ye cherubim, ye seraphim, ye angels and ye men. Here, now, O protoplasm and earth and plant and beast. Here, now, ye creeping things of earth, ye fish that swim, ye birds that fly. Here, now, ye winds that blow, ye thunders and ye lightnings of the sky. Here, now, ye spirits of the fire, of water, earth and air. Here, now, or everything that is, or was, or evermore will be. For wisdom speaks from out the highest plane of spirit life. Man is a thought of Allah. All thoughts of Allah are infinite. They are not measured up by time, for the things that are concerned with time begin and end. The thoughts of Allah are the everlasting of the past on to the never-ending days to come. And so is man, the spirit man. But man, like every other thought of Allah, was but a seed, a seed that held within itself the potencies of Allah, just as the seed of any plant on earth holds deep within itself the attributes of every part of that special plant. So spirit man, as seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of Allah. Now, seeds are perfect, yea, as perfect as source from which they come, but they are not unfolded into life made manifest. The child is as perfect as the mother is. So man, the seed must be deeply planted in the soil that he might grow, unfold, as does the bud unfold to show the flower. The human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah is foreordained to be the Lord of the plane of the soul and of the plane of things made manifest. So Allah, the husbandman of everything that is, threw forth this human seed into the soul of soul. It grew apace, and man became a living soul, and he became the Lord of all the kingdom of the soul. Hark, now, let every creature hear, the plane of souls, but the ether of the rhythm, but the ether of the spirit plane, vibrating not so fast. In slow rhythm of this plane, the essence of life are manifest, the perfumes and the odors, the true sensations, and all the love manifest. And these soul attributes became a body beautiful. A multitude of lessons man must learn here upon the plane of soul. And here it tarries many ages until his lessons are all learned. Upon the boundary of the plane of soul, the ether began to vibrate slower still, and then the essences took on the final guard. The perfumes and the odors and the true sensations and all the love were clothed in flesh, and man was clothed in flesh. Perfected man must pass through all the ways of life, and so a carnal was full manifest, a nature that sprang forth from fleshy things. Without a foe, a soldier never knows your strength, and thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. And so this carnal nature soon became a foe that man must fight, that he might be the strength of Allah made manifest. Let every living thing stand still and hear. Man is the Lord of the plane of man. Man is the Lord of all the plane of manifest, of protoplasm, of mineral, of plant, of beast. But he gave up his birthrights just to gratify his lower self. But man will regain his lost state, his heritage, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. Yea, he must suffer trials and temptations manifold. But let him know that cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun and spirit of the mighty Allah who rules solar stars are his protectors and his guide, and they will lead to victory. Man will be fully saved, redeemed, perfected by the things he suffers on the plane of flesh and on the plane of soul. When man has conquered carnal things, his garb of flesh will then have served his purpose well, and it will fall, will be no more. Then he will stand untrembled on the plane of soul where he must full complete his victories. Unnumbered foes will stand before man upon the plane of soul. These he must overcome, yea, overcome them every one. Thus hope will ever be his beacon light. There is no failure for the human soul, for Allah is lean on and victory is sure. Man cannot die. The spirit man is one for Allah, and while Allah lives, man cannot die. When man's conquered every foe upon the plane of soul, the sea will have fully opened out, unfolded into the holy breath. The garb of soul will then have served its purpose well, and man will need it nevermore, and it will pass, and be no more, and man will then attain unto the blessedness of perfectingness and at one with Allah. Praise be to Allah. Again, that was from the Holy Crown of More Science in America, divinely prepared by no prophet, Drew Ali, by God and his father, God, Allah, the great God of the universe. To redeem man from a sinful and fallen stage of man back to highest plane life was Father God, Allah. Again, that was chapter 1, the creation and fall of man. Now this chapter here, there's a reason it's chapter 1. And it is going over the creation and fall of man, as the title tells us. Now, Prophet said, time never was when man was not. If life and man at any time began, a time would come when it would end. The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. No finite mind can comprehend things infinite. All finite things are subject unto change. All finite things will cease to be because there was a time when they were not. The bodies and the souls of men are finite things, and they will change. Yea, from the finite point of view, the time will come when there will be no more. And the prophet continues on and he says, "But man himself is not the body, nor the soul. He's a spirit and a part of Allah." Now, the prophet, he does a great job, as the prophet always does. And he's explaining it to us here. Now, when the prophet says time never was when man was not, he letting us know that time wasn't a thing, We was created last. All the other creation existed for us. And we was the last one. So before that, before we existed up on this plane, there was no time. And the prophet letting us know if life of man at any time began, the time will come with an end. Okay. So we have a set period on this earth, right? We born on a certain day. Our flesh is born on a certain day, and our flesh is going to die on a certain day. The prophet letting us know, though, the thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. And each and every one of us, you and I, are each thoughts of Allah, thoughts of God, right? So when people say past lives, etc., this is what my understanding, the prophet is hinting at a little bit here. No, we can't circumscribe. We can't say that this is going to be our only life. We can't say that we're going to have another life, though. No, that's not up to us. And what is decided, what's up to us is what we do in our current life, in our current form. And then when that thought is sent back to, we get our judgment. We get that justice. And then if we got to come back again, we got to be reincarnated. We end up becoming reincarnated to continue on. Prophet said here, but man himself is not the body nor the soul. He's a spirit and a part of Allah. So the prophet is letting us know that we not just this flesh, we not just our soul. And the soul is responsible for thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing. But that ain't the soul, though. The soul is what wraps the spirit, that link. Every man has a spirit of Allah. So when we feel that connection with each other, that's the spirit of Allah who's speaking within to us. Each and every one of us shares that. Prophet letting us know that here. Then he talks about creative faith gave to man, to spirit, man, a soul that he might function on the plane of soul. Gave him a body of flesh that he might function on the plane of things made manifest. Then the prophet asked, why did creative faith get to spirit, man, a soul that he might function on the plane of soul? Why did creative faith get to soul, body of flesh, that he might function on a plane of things made manifest? And the answer to that, to my understanding, is love. Allah so loved us. We hear that, how Allah loves us. And we know this is truth. Allah recognized that we is all a part of him. And at the end, when we complete our victories, we go back and we attain that blessedness and perfectness and be back one with Allah. But in the meantime, Allah said, I love you, and he said that if you need this, talking about the soul, talking about the body of flesh, if you need this, you got it. We wasn't supposed to fall, like we hear in the Garden of Eden story, things like that. the fault of man. Man wasn't supposed to fall. Man did that on his own. But Allah, in his infinite wisdom, his infinite love, gave us a means to get back to, because you think about this body of flesh and the things that it can do. Our body of flesh can't be matched in terms of what it can do when it's under the proper thought. The animals, they can, make more noise than us. Some of them, they could hear better than us. You may hear, I got a cat, you may hear it now. They could vocalize, they could do all these different things with their flesh. But man, he could draw an animal with his flesh using his hand. He could think about how to draw an animal. He could think about how to recreate an animal in video games. We could study the animals to improve ourselves. The animals, they can't do that back to us in that understanding. Animals pick up on our hints, but they don't have that capacity. So when I say he gave him a body of flesh, that he might function on planet things made manifest, that's what we got this body of flesh for. Why was our hand given to us? It was given to us to extend, to help one another. Think about how easy it is when you're moving furniture, when you got two people working on it instead of just yourself. Or if you're cooking some food, how easy it is to cook that food when it's you and another person working on it. Or how easy it is to save somebody's life when it's you and another person working to save somebody's life. So this body of flesh, and Allah gave that to us out of love. Made it the best. You think about our flesh, it's the best. It's nothing like it on this earth. How it's composed, how it's made, how it all comes together and be. It's beyond our understanding. Then we think about the soul. And like I said earlier, the soul is responsible for thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing. But that's not the soul, it's the actions of the soul. And there's been much discussion on what the soul is throughout the ages. And the prophet explaining that to us here within this chapter. And again, my understanding, the reason why Allah gave us a soul was out of love. Because with your soul, you experience things. Your soul gains wisdom by the things it goes through. You share with people. You feel with people the feelings of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And these soften your heart. They make you willing to help one another. When you see somebody in a bad situation, you feel bad for them. When you see somebody in a good situation, you feel happy for them. And as you do that, you causing it to speed up, because we still one. That spirit of Allah, you think of it as a connecting cord, and then it connects up to the eternal. Each and every one of us. Now, that's a part of the reason why you could feel sometimes when somebody's staring at you, because really it's that part of Allah within, recognizing each other. And then that is such a high concept, and that's a part of why we got our soul. Our soul helps us process this understanding. So I'm going to continue on. Now the prophet continues on and he says, "Hear now, ye cherubim, ye seraphim, ye angels and ye men. Hear now, O protoplasm, and earth and plant and beast. Hear now, ye..." So I was saying, sorry, I got cut off. My bad, y'all. I'm going to clip this together for y'all later on. "Hear now, ye spirits of the fire, of water, earth and air. Hear now, everything that is, or was, or evermore will be, who wisdom speaks from out the highest plane of spirit life." Now, what the prophet is letting us know here, in my understanding, is that he's just letting us know that man is it. You know, he telling all these things. He telling the cherubim, he telling the seraphim, he telling the angels, he's telling the men. He's telling the protoplasm, the earth, the plant, the beast, the creeping things of the earth, fish that swim, birds that fly, the winds that blow, yea, thunders and yea, lightnings of the sky, spirits of the fire, of water, earth, and air. He said, here now, everything that is, or was, or evermore will be. For wisdom speaks from out the highest plane of spirit life. Then he says, man is the thought of Allah. All thoughts of Allah are infinite. They are not measured up by time. For the things that are concerned with time begin and end. So this is the thing. You and I are infinite. No matter what we going through here on this earth plane at this given time, we are infinite. We cannot be circumscribed. So earlier in my understanding, I was talking about how if we need to, we can come back in a different garb of flesh with a little bit different soul. You know, that soul done picked up what it did the last life. So if you don't get it all this time, know you got the opportunity to come back the next time. You know, you had the opportunity for that. We infinite. We're going to keep on doing this until we learn. Every trip we learn more and more. That's experience. You know, I was younger. Now, you know, I play video games, and every time you play the game, you know, RPG, anything like that, you gain experience points or you gain coins, whatever. And after you hit a certain amount, you level up. That's the same thing here. You know, every time we come in back to this earth, we go through things. Our body experience things, you know. One life cycle, man may be born deaf. Another, he may be born blind. Another, he may be born with predisposition to be overweight. Another one, he might be born to be have a predisposition to be more in shape. Every trip. Another one, he may, you know, the soul may be like, you know, I need to experience this from the other side of the gender. You know, maybe past lives, 4 of them, you was a male straight, and then or in them moves, and then your soul is like, you know, maybe I need to understand the point of view from the female's perspective. So then you reincarnated back as a female. And these is the cycles we go through as we learn. And, you know, I'm grateful to Allah for this, because without Allah, I wouldn't be knowing none of this. You know, without the Prophet, I wouldn't be knowing none of this. And the Prophet, again, the Prophet comes back. Prophet was Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius. Came back as Noble Drew Ali. And he put all them teachings together, and it creates a better picture for you. It helps you understand the full picture. Lets you understand a little bit of Allah. You know, man try to say, oh, Allah only sent one prophet. How you going to tell Allah what Allah did? How you going to limit Allah if you believe in Allah that much? If you trying to limit Allah, then you must not believe in the fullness of Allah. That's what you're telling me. Because throughout, Allah loves us. And he always going to love us as long as we show that love and do things deserving of that love. And even when we don't, he won't love us. You know, think about your parents. You might be a horrible son or daughter, and more often than not, your parents still love you. You know, you may have a horrible argument with your parents, but they still, more often than not, is going to assist you. And that's how our Father God Allah is. So I'm staying in this. And I was at, you know, Prophet said, man is a thought of Allah. All thoughts of Allah are infinite. They are not measured up by time, for the things are concerned with time, beginning and end. We're not concerned with time. You know, we under time constrained in this physical, you know, but think about when we sleep and we on using our soul. Because that's what's going on when you're in the soul. You know, when you're dreaming, that's your soul. Because your body of flesh is laying there. You know, people say all the time, you know, they astral project. They have an out-of-body experience. Yeah, your soul is not bound by the body. When it needs to, it could come out. and go through and experience things from that perspective. And when you have your dreams, you're not bound by time. You could wake up, you could have a dream, and in your dream, you could be in your dream, and you could start as a baby. You have a whole dream. You done lived a whole life. You wake up, you look at the clock. Oh, I was asleep for 6-7 hours. But up in my dream on the soul plane, my soul wasn't bound by time, and I done went through a whole time frame, a whole life. That's why we not bound by time like that. Like when we in this flesh, we bound by time a little bit, right? But that's because our thinking, we slowed down, to where we was at. But again, Allah gave us a body of flesh to deal with that. He said, if you ever get to that point where you that slow, your spirit that's done slow down that much, I'm gonna give you this body of flesh. So you gotta go to the soul plane when you sleep. And then when you in that soul plane, you get fast enough up on there, then you come back home to where I'm at. And then we get them downloads, them updates. You go to sleep, your body hurting, you wake up and you healed. Because you was up there with Allah. You was up there with the one God thinking them thoughts. You went and talked to Jesus, and Jesus like, hey, you gotta do that. This was causing that pain right there. You went and talked to Muhammad. Muhammad said, you gotta do that. That's what causing that pain right there. We get these understandings because we not bound by this flesh. When we sleep, it's easy to comprehend that we not bound by flesh. So the Prophet continued on and he said, thoughts of Allah are the everlasting of the past on to the never-ending days to come. And so is man, the spirit man. You think about that in the terms of science, modern day science, Western science. And we learn about a thing called the Big Bang Theory in school. And this talks about however many billion years ago, there was an event and boom, all matter started forming from this event. So that's them days, the everlasting of the past. You can't go back 10 days, 20 years ago. You can't delete that. You can't go back and you can't delete what happened on your 10th birthday. You can't do it. Them is the everlasting days. That's the everlasting of the past. You can't get rid of your past. What happened in the past is what happened. You learn from it. You did something wrong, you ask forgiveness for it. You did something great, you be grateful for it and hope that you can continue on doing them great things. You did something bad, you want forgiveness, you gotta ask, you gotta make that reparation to yourself to earn that forgiveness through yourself. The everlasting of the past. We can't go back and delete our past. What happened, happened. On to the never-ending days to come. Again, Star Wars, all these sci-fi movies, 5,000 years in the future, 10,000 years in the future. Even when Jesus was in the flesh, Jesus was in the flesh about 2,000 years ago to now, of the everlasting days to come, of the never-ending days to come. And he says, so is man, the spirit man. We was around back then, and we're going to be around in the future. But man, like every other thought of Allah, was but a seed that held within itself the potencies of Allah. And that's powerful right there, because Prophet letting us know that just as you plant a seed in the dirt, you got a sunflower seed and you plant in the dirt, when it grow up, it's going to be a sunflower. Allah letting us know here, he planted us. And that within us, we hold the attributes, the abilities. We're not all powerful, right? But in our minds, we comprehend what that is, in a sense. And when we do right, we can affect things. I apologize for the outside noise. Got some cats, they be getting active with each other sometimes. They're not hurting each other, but the one, he's still getting adjusted to his new siblings. So you hear him, rolling around. But again, I'm able to comprehend that. because I got all the potencies of Allah within. I could think about why my cat might be a little bit upset. He can't necessarily think about why I'm upset or why I'm happy. I can think about why he's happy. Like I give him some food, I know he about to be happy. If he sees something that he don't like, he gonna be mad. And I can understand that. But they can't understand that about us. So that's another thing that the prophet trying to get to us here in this creation and fall of man, the understanding of who we truly are as human beings. The environment shouldn't be subjected onto us. We subject onto the environment. But the way that we need to do that is through love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Every time you manipulate your inner power to affect the environment, it should be done with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Because when it's not, you affect the environment and you gotta pay for that eventually. It's gonna come back to you. Nobody is inscrutable. Everybody has to answer for something. Whatever it is that they did, they're gonna have to answer for that. It's gonna end up happening. The most powerful man in the world, he could get away with all his treachery if he did it that way. Have an amazing son. This is the heir that I always wanted. He's perfect. Boom. He's dead. What the father gonna do there but cry? And then he sit back and say, why did this happen to me, God? And we know the answer. You could tell that. That's the drama. This is what we are. So we always got to answer. We always got to answer. We always got to be ready to answer. Be held accountable for what we do. That's why we use the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice to guide our actions. Because them is divine principles. Them is from Allah. So when we use them, when we make a decision, we say, is this in accordance with love? Is this in accordance with truth? Is this in accordance with peace? Is this in accordance with freedom? Is this in accordance with justice? And if it's not for yourself or for others or the environment, for anything in the creation, if it's not in alignment with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, you should seriously reconsider it, because you will be eventually made to answer for it. But when you go with them principles, you build something eternal, something that will never be forgotten. That's why we all know who Jesus is. So we all know who Muhammad is. So we all know who Confucius is. So why we all know who Buddha is. Because they built their lives when they did it in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Each one of them divine prophets did that. That's why we know who Noble Drew Ali is. And if you don't know who Noble Drew Ali is yet, you will be learning about who Noble Drew Ali is as the everlasting, as the never-ending days to come. Because if you seen who I am, that is about related to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He came for a certain group of people that's found in America, living in America currently. He came for all people, just as all the divine prophets did, though. So we never get that confused. He's here for all the people that want to hear the messages of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Just Prophet Muhammad for all the people. Prophet Muhammad just not for the Arabian. Just how Jesus for all the people. He's just not for the Israelite. Just how Prophet Confucius for all the people. He's just not for the Chinese. Just how Prophet Buddha's for all the people. He's just not for the Indian. These are for all people. And again, that's what the prophet letting us know in this chapter. So the prophet said, see that hold within itself the potencies of Allah. Just seed of any plant of earth hold deep within itself the attributes of every part of that special plant. Again, as I said, if I planted a sunflower seed in the soil, that seed has all the parts, has every attribute of that sunflower. It's not going to grow and just be missing something that will make it a sunflower. No, it's the whole complete thing up in there. Like when we think about DNA, That's the whole complete instructions right there up in there. You know, and that's the glory of Allah, because he put everything alike. You think about the egg of a bird. Up in that egg, when it hatch, it's going to be a bird. You know, when that sunflower seed is planted and it grows, it's going to be a sunflower. So Allah put itself into our hearts. When we fully develop ourselves, we're going to be like our creator. And there's no other. The truth for that is, if you question that truth, you know, you may question who Jesus is, you may question who Muhammad is, you may question who Buddha is, you may question who Confucius is, you may question who Noble Drew Ali is. But these was man that showed us what it's like, how you are when you allow Allah within to guide your everything that you do. When you allow Allah within to guide everything that you do, you become unforgettable on this earth. You become spoken of as our brother Jesus is. Become spoken of as our brother Muhammad is. And this ain't from no power thing. You know, Jesus could have went and gathered up whoever he wanted and overthrew who was ruling over Israel at that time. But he didn't. He said, this ain't about earthly power. Because this thing, the earth, you know, the flesh got a time to it. The flesh is going to go. But what Jesus was teaching will never go. 2,000 years ago, he taught this message, and it's still being spoken about today. You know, think about songs, you know, top songs of last year. You know, you might not be able to recall them off the top of your head like that unless you're a musical historian. But a lot of people, they could recall off the top of their head the teaching of Jesus, because it's that eternalness that he spoke with, that he got from our creator. The creator put in him. That eternalness that Muhammad spoke. You know, the Quran is known verbatim, you know, by the Muslims around the world. It was passed on, and that came from Allah and was revealed through Prophet Muhammad. So again, so spirit man, as seed of Allah, held deep within himself the attributes of every part of Allah. The Prophet said, now Caesar perfect, yea, as perfect as source from which they come, but they are now unfolded in life made manifest. The child is as perfect as the mother is. And that's important for us today, because it's important for us to choose who we have our children with, you know, knowing that, you know, for the women too, you know, who you having your children with is important, because that's what the flesh is going to come from. A part of their mannerisms, a part of their soul vibe, that's all going to come through that child that you have with said person. So the prophet goes on and said, the human seed that came forth. Well, first the prophet says, so man, the seed must be deep planted so that he might grow, unfold as does the bud unfold to show the flower. So again, Allah put us into this environment, right? He put us into this environment here on earth to let us learn the true creative powers that we have, to let us learn who we truly are, because we was ungrateful at one point in time, and we just felt like we were entitled to all this. And when we did that, we fell. But again, Allah loved us, and when we was falling, you know, he clothed us. He gave us a way to comprehend these different stages. You know, you think about discipline that is taught when you do Ramadan, right? Do Ramadan. Ramadan is teaching you to discipline your physical first. Prophet tell you, don't drink no water. Don't eat no food. Don't smoke. Don't drink. Don't do them things that you feel that you need. Don't fornicate with your wife. during certain hours to increase that discipline, to increase the discipline of the body, to allow yourself to be without worrying about it. And as you master that, you see what Jesus did when he was up in the desert. He had to let go of all that. He had to let go of thinking about drinking water. He had to let go about eating food. He had to dig into his soul. Once you got full control of your body, then you could start to dig into your soul. He said he planted us in the soul that we might grow. It's a lot of things in this world that will distract you. It's a lot of things in this world that taste good. It's a lot of things in this world that will inebriate you. It's a lot of things in this world that will cause your dopamine to fire off, and you could get addicted to it. Dope head, right? A lot of things. But these are all for us to think and to teach ourselves how to not be stuck with them feelings that our body is wanting. So, and that's why it's the perfect, what we's deeply planted into, that we might grow. Prophet said, the human seed that came forth from the heart of Allah was foreordained to be the Lord of the plane of the soul and of the plane of things made manifest. So when we was planted, Allah already said, you're going to be Lord of this. You're going to be Lord of the plane of the soul. When you sleep, when you go into the dream world, you is the Lord of that. You're in control of that. Your dreams, even though it may not feel like it sometimes, you're in control and you're learning. Even when you sleep, a lot of times people solve many of their hardest problems by going to bed, by going to sleep, going onto that and being the Lord of the plane of the soul and the plane of things may manifest. And this is the double-edged sword, in the Lord of the plane of the soul, because you think about thinking, understanding, reasoning. Somebody could get you into a situation just like, logically, this and that, this, a contract here, that. That's being Lord of that plane of the soul. So it's a double-edged sword. You be Lord of the plane of the soul and Lord of the plane of manifest. You can't mistreat it. You got to treat it with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. This is the understanding that I get from this chapter. As I said earlier, this is the understanding I'm getting. Who's made the Lord of the plane of things made manifest. And we could see this. As we see, how you could change your environment. You could change your physical. You put it to your mind that you want to lose weight. You want to get in shape. You can do that because you Lord of the plane of things made manifest. This body's manifest. It may be hard to control, but it's manifest. People, build houses. Take the different elements of the world, of the earth, and create things from it. Also, certain people in the Mali Empire, Morocco, people like me, Asiatics of America, our forefathers was goldsmith. We can make anything out of gold. And we got people like that today that can make things out of whatever. A lot of Europeans is good with ironsmithing. They take a piece of iron, turn it into something. That's what they forefathers was good at in Europe, taking the iron that they got from the earth, from the mountains, and turning it into something to benefit. And that's what we can do as Lord of the plane of things made manifest. We have domain and power over the animals, over the plants, over the everything. My animal, he being loud right now because he wants to come in here and see me, he hears me. So he's trying to vocalize, but even then, still, it's up to me to treat him right, as it is up to us to treat all of the creation right, because we are the Lord of the plane of things made manifest. We can wipe out entire species of animals. That's how powerful we are. Think of the dodo bird. Think about the deforestation that happens. And think about the plastic and all the water. All because we're the Lord of the plane of things made manifest. We had that much influence over it. The weather and the earthquakes and things remind us that we do have a limit. But even then, man can make earthquake-proof buildings. Man can make waterproof buildings. Man can make things that electric can't harm, because we the Lord of the plane of things made manifest. So again, I'm going to continue on. Prophet says, so Allah, the husbandman, everything there is, threw forth this human seed into the soul. So the spirit, he threw it into the soul. He threw it into something that could feel. He threw it into something that could understand. He threw it into something that could reason. To allow us to think about what we got. To allow us to feel what we got. To allow us to go through the repercussions of what happens when we don't use it right. When we allow it to slip and get weak or get mistreated or misplaced. That's what we have to learn when we allow that to happen to ourselves. He said it grew apace and man became a living soul. So it was there and it moved and it kept on going. You know, it became a living soul. It started thinking, reasoning, understanding, feeling these different things. So then the prophet said, and he became the Lord of all the kingdom of the souls. So first, prophet letting us know that we started on the soul plane, you know. We ain't had this body of flesh, you know, at first. You know, up after we fell. We fell into the soul plane. So you got the spirit plane, soul plane, plane of flesh. Right now we in the plane of flesh, but our thoughts is moving up. How we feeling inside is moving up. And as we move up and up more, we get higher and higher up there. That's why when you go through things, you feel such a emotion. You feel that feeling of just being. When you meditate, you feel that feeling of being. When you contemplate something deeply, you feel that feeling of being. When you do something right, you feel that feeling of being. Even when you do something wrong, you feel that being of being. And these things all affect. Prophet said, now let every creature hear. The plane of souls, but the ether or the spirit plane vibrate not so fast. So it lets us know that this plane of soul is still, though, the spirit. So all of this is still the spirit from Allah, but it's just moving slower. That's why when we think and we sleeping, you could just be like, I want to be in Morocco in your dream. And boom, you in Morocco. I want to be in Cali. Boom, you in Cali. I want to be in Florida. Boom, you in Florida. But then he says, and in the soul rhythm of this plane, the essence of life will manifest. So that's why, you know, when we do want to go to these places at this moment, we got to go in an airplane. We got to go up in a car. You know, we don't have the teleportation techniques like that. Not yet. You know, there may be some people who are able to teleport different places. You know, I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, you know, they be out, you know, instant transmission. I think they called it to a different place. Don't doubt yourself. But in the current reality, the known reality, majority of people recognize you have to get in the car, you have to drive. That's the slower rhythm of things, you know, and take it somewhere else for you. And this understanding, you think of something, you know, boom, you instantly have an idea. You think about it, but then you got to write it down. You know, you got to slow it down into the creation to manifest it for yourself at this moment. You know, it's not instant. You know, before, as we get faster and we raise our vibration up of our flesh, raise the vibration up of our soul, we do have instant things like that given to us. Instant recognition of one another. Instant, I know how to make this right now. I don't need to study. You get that as you do the right things in your life according to love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. Praise be to Allah. Prophet says the perfumes and the odors, the true sensations, and all love manifests. So all these different things that we feel, we smell, that's all to remind us to love, Think about how good something smells. Think about how good the flowers smell, It's in there. You smelling in. That's love. Think about how good, nutrient food is, that's good for your body and your soul that you're getting from a good source that's not harming things. Think about that goodness, that all love manifests. Allah so loved us, He put us in the flesh. We went into this flesh, but Allah provided us the fruits, the herbage, the flowers, the beans, the honey from the bee, the milk from the cow. These things is given freely to us. We don't have to harm anything to get the beans, the fruits, the vegetables. These things, literally, you grow an apple tree, literally, it will drop an apple for you to eat. You grow a vegetable, literally, it will grow a vegetable for you to eat. You take out a seed from a watermelon. Get you a full watermelon. How many seeds is up in there? 100? 200? You take a row and you plant every single one of them, you're going to get 200 watermelons. You can do that infinitely. I can't eat a piece of chicken. I can't kill a chicken, cut its head off, take a bone out of its neck, and plant that bone up in the earth, and it's going to grow a chicken for me. So that's what I'm talking about here in this. All love manifests. Allah loved us. He created the fruits, the herbage, the flowers for us to eat, and for us to be in an infinite cycle going up and up, higher and higher. And these soul attributes came by beautiful. A multitude of lessons, man, was learned upon the plane of soul. And again, it took me a while to learn what I just went through with y'all, talking about the different things to eat, and if you're at where you're at where you're at, no judgment. I'm just letting you know what it really is, though. Like, it's no judgment, but you go to Michael Jordan, and you say you want to learn how to shoot a jump shot like Michael Jordan. He going to tell you how to shoot that jump shot like he jump shotted it. If you do anything from that deviation, the results are not guaranteed for you. You go do that anything. You go get a warranty on anything. You go and say, well, I did this, though. Oh, you didn't follow what we told you to do. That's why you're not getting the results that you want. It's just what it is. If you're not where you want to be, if you're not there, I'm not judging you. That's all I'm saying. I love to you all. Everybody's learning. A multitude of lessons, man, was learned upon the plane of soul. It's things that I got to learn, upon the plane of soul. It's things I got to learn, in accordance with hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms. And the prophet says, here he tarries many ages until his lessons are all learned. So we come back and we come back and we come back and we come back. Each trip. If in this last life you didn't learn the value of not being a hater, you didn't learn the value of not being lewd, you didn't learn the value of not being slanderous, you did not learn the value of not being a thief, you did not learn the value of not being a murderer, you did not learn the value of not doing those things that harm, you're going to come back. It's just like school. You go to class, you don't study, you don't do your reading, you bomb the test. Hey, you got to repeat this course. Or, hey, we can't give you credit for this course, But in life, it ain't no quitting. You go to school, go to college, and you don't pass the course, you don't have to go back. It's just simple truth. You don't have to go back. But in this life here, you don't pass that lesson, you're going to be back again and learn it. And that's Jesus. We just had Easter, Resurrection Sunday. Some people call it Easter. I call it Resurrection Sunday. We had Resurrection Sunday, and, he's showing us there the resurrection. He went through the life. And when he went through the life, and he lived according to his father, to the Father's will, to the Father of us all. No, Allah created all of us. What do that mean? He the Father. That's what that means. You want to say he the mother too, whatever. The creative force. Creative force that created you. Creative force that created I. Creative force that created Jesus. Creative force that create the trees, the birds in the sky. The things that we went over. The spirits of the earth, water, fire, air. The creeping things. The fish that swim. The Creator created all that. So yes, our Creator, right? So Jesus lived according to the Creator. And the Creator's like, you did a good job. And because of that, he resurrected. He came back. He got to live again up after his flesh died. He got to live again. He completed his lessons. And we'll continue on to read that. Upon the boundary of the planet soul, the ether began to vibrate slower still, and then the essences took on the final guard. The perfumes and odors and true sensations all lowered clothed in flesh, and man was clothed in flesh. So as we fell and we got slower, we started picking up things, Think about all the way, even in Western science, just science we taught in school. Pure energy. But as we fell, it started picking up things. You think about the sun. Pure energy comes from the sun. Sunlight goes through. Some of it get picked up by the clouds. Sunlight goes through. Some of it gets absorbed by the birds flying in the sky. Sunlight goes through. Some of it gets absorbed by the plants. Sunlight comes through. Some of it gets absorbed by us. So again, that high energy source coming down into slower. That's why our thoughts coming from a high energy source, but they slow down as they reach this rate of atmosphere. Now that's why you can see yourself being more in shape. It's coming from a high source, a high energy source. But you got to go to the gym. You got to go eat right. You got to be disciplined. You got to be consistent. Then you start to see the results. Once you raise what you're doing in your life, you start being disciplined. You start eating better. You start going harder in the gym. You raising the energy that you're providing. So then you start to see these changes in your life. This is all my understanding from this chapter. This is chapter 1. This is like the heaviest chapter, really. I mean, it's deep. It's a lot in here. The prophet goes on and he says, perfected man must pass through all the ways of life. And so carnal was full manifest. Again, we slowed ourselves down. We was up here, we slowed down. So what happened? You at the top, you fall off, what you got to do? Hop on the ladder. You got to climb back up. You got to go through these things. Perfected man must pass through these things. You break an ankle, you hurt your arm. You got to rehab. You got to go through some things. You got to do them things. You go broke trying to start something. You got to go through them things. You got to go through it. You going through with your soul, you go through a breakup, a heartache, somebody dies in your family. You feel some things. You got to pass through all these things, knowing that you will pass through all these things. It's nothing that's going to stop you from passing through these things except for you. If you don't want to pass through, you're not going to pass through them, but that's not taking you off the course. That's not taking you off the track. Just because you don't want to run no more, you might be you pause. You come back, you might forget, and just live a few lives, just lottie-dottie, we like to party, not thinking. But you're going to have to eventually wake up and get back to thinking on that world that you manifest into. It's going to be on the downslope because it's matching what is the energy manifesting into it. Well, it's important for us. It's important for us to follow them principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, to rise this world up. It's a joint effort. It's not just one of us. It starts with one, but then it it boils over, you know, and affects all of us because we all live in this shared world at the moment. Praise be to Allah for that. Prophet goes on, he says, so carnal's full manifest, a nature that sprang forth flesh things, you know. You get hungry, you get aroused, you get tired, you get sleepy, you get these things. This is that carnal nature, you know, that man must fight, that woman must fight. You must fight these things. You can't fall victim to it. You're not an animal. You know, an animal fall victim to these different things, but you not. You know, you is able to comprehend. You have a soul. You're able to understand that this flesh don't run you unless you give it that power. But eventually, it's going to be like, hey, I don't run you. And it's going to die on you. And you're going to be there. No flesh. Back on the soul plane. Still going to be feeling them feelings, though. So it's important that we go through them and understand them and live according to the 5 divine principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Prophet said, without a fold of soldier never knows strength, and thought must be developed by the exercise of strength. No, praise be Allah, because Allah gave us Ramadan, taught us that through the Prophet Muhammad. You know, when the Prophet Muhammad came to us and taught us Ramadan, said, you know, in the Catholics, they practice fasting too. You know, all of the people, you know, practice fasting one way, somehow. Give up something, you know, you got to learn, you know, you got to overcome, you know, and how you do that? Through thought, thinking the right way, thinking the right thing to do, thinking the right way to eat, thinking the right way to create, you know, doing it according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Not doing it according to hatred, slander, doing murder stuff and everything that harms, but doing it according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. A soldier never knows strength. You don't know your strength. I'm working out in the gym. I go deadlift. If I never maxed out, I don't know my strength, you know. I don't know my strength. That weight at that moment is my foe. Think about it like that. You know, I go to the gym, I'm deadlifting. Whatever weight on that bar is my foe. I go lift it, then I know my strength. No, yeah, I know I could do that right there, you know. And that's just like life. We go through things, you know. I done went through that. So I know my strength now because I went through that. You know, you think about Muhammad Ali going through them fights. You know, when he went through that fight with George Foreman, he knew his strength up after that. You know, he went and freed people. You know, he went in and negotiated hostages. That's the, you know, the power of love that we all share amongst each other. Praise be to Allah. And Prophet goes on, he said, let every living thing stand still and hear. Man is Lord of all the plane of manifest, of protoplasm, of mineral, of plant, of beast. But he gave up his birthright, just gratify his lower self. Think about that, you know, in the terms of my understanding, you know, I think about it, you know, I think about, you know, about what's said in the Garden of Eden in the Bible, right? How we was in the Garden of Eden, and then they say it was apple, but really it was a cow or a fish or anything like that. You know, we killed something in the Garden of Eden. We ate an apple. No, apple, we learned about life and death. You know, we killed something. We killed one of the other creations that was there with us, living peacefully. Took the life of another being. Allah said, oh, you think you got, huh? You think you got the power to take the life of some? You ready? You gonna live through that now. You gonna live and die. No, we wasn't dying before that. We didn't know that. And we all made that decision. Each and every one of us at some point in time. We was in the Garden of Eden and said, no, forget it. We're gonna kill something to eat it. Did it, you know, killed one of the cows or the chickens or the fish or whatever it was. That's my understanding from this, you know. Gratifies lower self. Because what's lower self? It's this body of flesh. You know, it's that I wanted to taste something. I wonder what that felt like. Something like that. I wanted to feed my ego. Oh, I'm powerful, That big old woolly mammoth over there, man. Man, I take that thing out. That ain't nothing. Went took it out, boom. Hey, you out of here, man. You out of here. You out of here. You gotta go live out there now. You done killed something you weren't supposed to. Just gratify your lower self. You thought you knew about life and death. So then God had to humble us, we had to fall. But God sent us to learn, know our soul, our flesh, so we could learn through them things. And that's what we're going through now. Prophet said, man is Lord, like I said, just gratifies lower self. We lost our birthrights. But the prophet, he said, but man will regain his lost state, his heritage. But he must do in the conflict that cannot be told in words. Yea, he must suffer trials and temptations manifold. But let him know that cherubim and seraphim that rule the stations of the sun, the spirit of mighty Allah, who rule the solar stars, are his protectors and his guide, and they will lead to victory. Today we got astronauts in space. You think about that. Allah, who rule the solar stars, are his protectors and his guide, and they will lead to victory. Best believe how they staying orientated out in space. The sun, where is this planet at this moment? Just how we stay orientated out here on this water. Just how our forefathers knew the astrolabe. Look up in the sky. Oh, on this day, the sun, the moon, Venus, Saturn, it's going to be all here at this moment. Okay, I'm going this direction. I'm going that direction. This is what Allah gave us, our understanding. And he said, we going to suffer the trials and temptations, and it's going to be a conflict that cannot be told in words. Sometimes you just go through something that you can't even tell nobody about, That's that conflict that cannot be told in words. But you come across the Holy Crown of the More Science to America. You come across the teachings of the divine prophet. And they teach you these lessons. And it's a conversation between you, the prophet, and God. If you want to share up after that, you can share with that. But you could learn to get through that conflict that cannot be told in words from these teachings that the prophet shared with us under the guidance of our Father God, Allah. The prophet says, may one be fully saved, redeemed, perfected by the things he suffers on the plane of flesh and on the plane of soul. So the things we suffer on the plane of flesh, think about it. Go to the gym. I'm lifting. Dang. That kind of hurt. That my arms is hurting. They sore, but then boom, get swelled up. You get perfected. You sitting there, you doing your reps, boom, boom, squatting, boom, boom, you deadlifting, boom, boom. Your muscles getting bigger. They getting perfected by that pain it's feeling. You go through a heartbreak. Dang, man, my heart hurt. You go back and you look, you say, dang, I did it wrong there. I shouldn't have been doing that. I should have came more correct with love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. You know what? Next time Allah give me something to cherish like that in the form of another person, I'm not going to do that again. Matter of fact, I'm going to be like, wow, I'm going to do this so much better. That she ain't going to know no love more pure than this, except from her Father God, Allah, and from the Prophet. She ain't going to know no truth higher than this. Like how you is with them. That's what I mean. When I say that no higher than that, you will learn from that pain you go through, from that mistake you made with that one that you really cared about, and you end up hurting their heart. You're going to learn from that. Learn not to do them things. That's how you get perfected. Prophet continue on, he said, man's carnal things, his garbage flesh will then serve this purpose well, and it'll fall, will be no more. You said, boom, it's done. I don't need this no more. Yeah, I'm out. Y'all think, y'all stab me in my rib. Y'all stab me in my heart. Pierce my side. But hey, I could have kept on living, really. But I'm out. I don't need this flesh no more. I'm about to show you a whole nother thing. Boom, it fell. It wasn't no more. They laid the body in the tomb, right? He ain't needed no more. He wasn't even in there no more. Then the prophet said, then he will stay on tremble on the plane of soul where he must full complete his victories. Jesus had already started working on the spirit, on his soul plane, when he was fasting in the desert. He was already, I'm about dead. This flesh about dead. Allah said, great. Now you really learning. Now you really see what it's about. If you wanted, you could wake up right now and turn that stone into a piece of bread. If you want it, that's how much power you done gain. How much power you done caused to come and channel into your body. And Jesus stand there, untrembled on the plane of soul. And he completed his full victories. He looked at the Roman and said, you know what? I forgive you. I still got love for you. Because you was holding on to something that ain't even going to last. You done killed my flesh, thinking that I was going to make your flesh live forever. You just added on to your own things that you got to learn. But I forgive you. That's what Jesus said, and he forgave him. He said, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Why he say that? Because when they killed him, when they killed his flesh, they didn't know what they thought they was ending Jesus. They thought, hey, ain't nobody gonna remember him in a few years. Nope. That's not true. So he let it go. That was one of the things he had to think. Reason, understanding, feeling. He had to feel them things. The passion, as they say. Then he will stand untremble on the plane of soul where he must full complete his victories. A number of foes will stand before man upon the plane of soul. These he must overcome, yea, overcome them every one. Again, that's what prophet talking about, until his lessons are all learned. You might not do it all in one life like Jesus did. This life, you might figure out I might finally figure out, things I'm supposed to figure out, concerning hatred, slander, lewdness, murder, stuff, and everything that harms, we overcome them, every one. Overcome them, every one. Thus hope will ever be his beacon light. Always knowing, you always got the opportunity to change your life. You always got the opportunity to make your life better. If your life is going great, you got the opportunity to make it go greater. How? By helping more people. By uplifting that person who seem like they can't get right. Because you get them some money or you get them some food don't mean you crippling them. Shoot. Somebody might just need $100 and they done saved up $2,000. They just needed the 100 and I can start my business now. Boom. They making 4,000, 40,000. Then they come back and you like, hey man, I remember you, bro. You helped me out. All I needed was 100. I was about to go rob somebody for that 100, but you said, hey, and just gave it to me. And because you gave it to me, I ain't have to go rob somebody, which could have then turned into me having to go to jail, which then turned into me having to get a bond or some, or could have went way bad. But no, Allah bless you. You had the riches. And you say, you know what? I'm going to make this even better. Some people get rich. They like, oh, I don't know how to make my life no more better. But they sitting there hoarding all their money, not wanting to help nobody. That's why your life suck. Because you rich and you ain't helping nobody. Because you think somebody's supposed to, pull up by their bootstraps. That's that hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, and theft thought. You can make your life better. Your life can always be better. It can always go higher and higher until you get back to the one that's Allah. And like I said, how you do that? By giving. By living according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Helping out your brother, man. Helping out your sister. Doing these things. Prophet goes on and said, there's no failure for the human soul. For Allah is lean on and victory is sure. Man cannot die. The spirit man is one for Allah. While Allah lives, man cannot die. When man has conquered every foe upon the plane of soul, to see you are fully opened out, unfolded in a holy breath. You hold that thought when you know and you be being. That's what that's about. The garbage soul will then have served its purpose well, and man will need it nevermore, and will pass and be no more. And man will then attain all blessedness and perfectness at one for Allah. And we see that with our brother Jesus. He went through these things. He conquered every foe upon the plane of soul. And that seed, Allah fin did open out. And it unfolded in the holy breath. Well, the holy breath is truth, the everlasting gospel. And that's why we know about our brother Jesus to this day, 2,000 years ago. Said the garbage soul didn't serve this purpose well. You done did all the thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, feeling that you needed to do. And now you just being love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice at all times. And then you just being that for other people. Somebody come up to you, you being love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. They vibration automatically raised just from being by you. And that's that blessedness and perfectness at one for Allah. So again, the Holy Crown of More Science to America. That was chapter 1, the creation and fall of man. And I thank you. I give honors to y'all. I thank Allah for y'all being able to find this video. And if you enjoyed that video, like I said, this chapter 1, that's like one of the heaviest chapters, So this video is going to be longer. Going to be about hour and a half. Hey, praise Allah, it's a lot in here. It's a lot for us to understand. It's a lot for us to continue to understand. And I'm thankful because Allah prepared me, He taught me how to read well. He taught me how to speak well. He allowed me to go to school, and gave me a mom, gave me a dad, gave me a grandpa, gave me a grandma who taught me, gave me a babysitter, honors to her. She used to sit me down. She sit me down and make me study, not this, but she made me study my schoolwork, and, I'm able to use them skills now, like being able to read and then have this understanding, the understanding, don't come. Anybody can have understanding, Don't think you got to go and be a scholar, If you get right with Allah, Allah going to bless you with that understanding. Understanding come to all people. It could come to the most richest. It could come to the most smartest. It could come to the poorest. It could come to the person who you think don't got, to the person who don't even know how to write. They might not even be able to write their own name. Might not be able to spell their own name. But I don't mean that the understanding ain't there with them. If you think that, you discounting the spirit. You discounting who Allah is. And I'm going to just end with always work to be love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. When times get hard, always work to be love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Fall back on that. Don't fall back on hatred, slander, lewdness, murders, theft, and everything that harms. Fall back on the being love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So it becomes more and more of the being. So praise be Allah. I'm going to have this video up for y'all. And it's the first of many, I'm going to do this and go through the chapters and get my understanding on them. Love to you all. Peace on earth. Good to men. Peace.